Welcome back to GearWire.com. I'm Owen O'Malley, and this slim guy right here is the Zoom R16. The R16 is Zoom's newest portable digital recorder. It is a 16-track recorder with 8 simultaneous inputs, and it is also an audio interface and a control surface. It attaches via USB to your computer, and you can use it with any major DAW, save Pro Tools. It has 8 combination XLR and quarter-inch input jacks here. It records onto SD or SDHC, up to 32 gigabyte SDHC cards for quite a bit of uncompressed recording time, audio recording time. It's powered by either AC, and the AC adapter comes with it, or it runs off of 6 AA batteries. So it really is a portable 16-track recorder. It's extremely light, too. You can see how slim it is. It feels like there's almost nothing to it. There's a couple of different special inputs on this guy. The first input can also act as a high-Z input. It can accept direct instrument input, and you can switch high-Z on and off with this little switch right here. Inputs 5 and 6 are capable of providing full 48 volts of phantom power. Those are the only 2 inputs that can accept phantom power, but it's great if you have drum overheads or a pair of condenser vocal microphones or just a pair of condensers. It's pretty common that you'd have a pair of condensers, which is why they put the 2 phantom power supplying inputs right next to each other, and they kind of link them right there. You've also got a pair of built-in electret microphones, stereo electret microphones that are linked to inputs 7 and 8. And you switch from the combi XLR quarter-inch jack inputs to the built-in electret microphone inputs by switching right here on 7 and 8. So you can actually start recording with the Zoom R16 even without any external microphones. Just right out of the box, you can just plug it in and start recording and doing multi-track recording just without any extra gear. Maybe just a pair of headphones, that's about it. You've got 2 different outputs for monitoring on this guy. You've got a headphone output, and you also have quarter-inch LR outputs. Each of those 2 different outputs has its own dedicated volume control. On the LR, the left and right output you can send to a pair of monitors, or you can send to another audio source, another sort of a stereo out, bounce to stereo out for mastering. You could, of course, also master and bounce down, mix down to a stereo track in the box here, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So, as I said before, you can connect this to your computer via USB to turn it into an 8-input USB 2.0 audio interface, and it does record at 24-bit 96K as an audio interface and also as a digital recorder. But you can see that there's both 2 device and 2 host USB ports here. You can import and export data to a thumb drive, but also you can get a second R16 and actually sync them both together like you would like an old school like 24-track tape machine, like a couple of 2-inch tape machines. And then you can, with a pair of R16s, one of them is slaved, and you basically have 16 simultaneous channels of input and 24 channels of mixing, which is pretty cool. We don't have a second R16 with us, so you'll just have to take our and Zoom's word on that. So let's take a closer look at the R16 in action as a multi-track recorder recording a full band demo. So I've loaded up a song that I recorded with my band at our rehearsal space. The band's called the Rikters. Our rehearsal space is not the most acoustically perfect space, but you will get an idea of how flexible this thing is and basically how it can help you make far more advanced demos than a standard sort of stereo recorder, and even do some basic pre-production stuff. So well, first, each track here you can see has its own dedicated gain trim knob and a volume output fader. It has a peak indicator right here 4 segment LEDs on each track to show your playback volume, stereo master track right here. There is a metronome, and you can choose if you want to send it to the output or just the headphones for easy recording to a click with a full band. Then you have these buttons up here. These are your play, mute, and record buttons. And basically, when they're off, the track is muted. When they're red, they're armed for record. And when they're green, they're just being played back. So let's start this song. We're starting, this was recorded in MP3, recorded directly into MP3, streamed to MP3 as it was a recording. So it's not CD quality audio, but again, you'll get the idea. Let's just look at these tracks individually, how we've got it set up. So you can hear on track 1, on track 1 we've got our bass. Which was recorded direct. I got a backing vocal, that's me, on 2. We've got a kick. That's our snare. We've got our 2 overheads on 7 and 8. We've got our guitar on 5 that's bleeding into everything, so we can keep it, pretty far down. Lead vocals. We'll get to vocals in a second. Now, if you want to do basic mixing things like changing the EQ for a track or panning a track, you access all those functions through the pan EQ button right here. So the first thing we should do is take the overheads and pan them. And we do it like this. That's much nicer. Now this is also how you access EQ effects. So let's put a little more bass on this kick drum here. It's kind of getting buried. There's quite a few options when it comes to EQ. You've got a 3-band EQ, but you also have control over the gain amount, but also the center frequency of each of those 3 bands. So let's go to the low EQ, and it's already set at 63 hertz, which is probably good for a kick. And let's crank up the decibels. You can raise it or lower each EQ notch plus or minus 12 dB. So quite a bit of tone shaping on there. Now let's back up a little bit and listen to the vocals. Now you can see I've only recorded onto the first 8 tracks here. You have also tracks 9 through 16 that I could now overdub onto. So you could track basic tracks live and then layer 8 more tracks simultaneously, even if you wish, on top of those. Or you could layer them one by one, overdub style. You could even then bounce all those down and keep layering on top of that. So you can do quite a bit of multi-tracking with the R16. Now there's 2 different kinds of effects that you can use on the R16 when it's in multi-track recorder mode. First off, we have our insert effects. Let's take a closer look at those. So when we bring up our insert effects here, you can see we've got different kinds of insert effects, different sort of categories of effects. Each different category affects a different number of inputs or specific inputs depending on what category type they are. Now for tracking the full band, I used one of the 8x comp EQs. You can see right here, it affects inputs 1 through 8. All these insert effects you use when you're tracking because they sort of print to the digital track as you're recording. So 8x comp EQ affects 8 inputs simultaneously. We have mastering effects that are only affect a stereo. Those are stereo effects. Now, clean is actually clean guitar effects. You've got a bunch of the Zoom sort of guitar amp modeling and guitar effects built in. So if you want to record guitar directly into the high Z, which is on input 1, you could choose any of these different kind of guitar effects. There's clean effects, distortion effects. There's acoustic bass simulators if you want to play some bass direct in here, and also some bass amp emulations. We also have microphone preamp and effects patches. Those are also one input only. We have dual mic inputs. We have stereo linked effects. You can stereo link tracks. I didn't stereo link the overdubs, or the overheads rather, but you can stereo link tracks, and they basically just, whatever the odd number fader is, that'll be your master fader for both the stereo link tracks. And that's it. Then we're back to the 8x comp EQ insert effects. So again, all those insert effects are sort of, you access them, or you choose your insert effects as you're recording, and they print to your digital tape, I guess you'd call it. That's a terrible misnomer. Why did I say that? Now in mixing, you're going to be using mostly what's called the send and return effects, which are basically your reverb and your chorus, which act as aux effects loops. And we've got different kinds of reverb types, different kinds of chorus and delays. And you can have a reverb and a chorus or delay going on at the same time. Our reverb type right now is large hall. So let's bring our vocals back in, and we'll go back to our pan EQ button, select our vocals, and let's dial in some reverb. You can see you've got a reverb send and a chorus send. So it's a pretty decent reverb sound. It's not top-notch recording studio quality, but you can definitely use it to soften up a vocal. In fact, let's put some on the snare too, to hear what it sounds like. Let's not listen to my backup vocals because I sang pretty out of tune. There's no auto-tune on the R16, unfortunately, or fortunately. Now let's say you've got your mix at a place where you really like it and you'd like to bounce it down. Really easy. Back up to your marker. You can set markers so you can actually just record continuous files, set markers for easy navigation. And arm your master track for mix down, hit record, and play. And you can bounce it down in real time, even affecting changes to your faders. So you can sort of like ride your fader levels like old school, like mixing down to tape. Kind of fun. You can also, of course, bounce manually or automatically if you choose not to ride the faders old school, as they say. Do they say that? Anyway. And then you basically get everything mixed down to a stereo file, resolution of your choosing, which is then you can then import. Of course, you can also take this and import the individual track files to a DAW and edit them from there, should you have plugins that you really want to use. And you can also swap, you can also swap files, you can swap tracks to other tracks, move tracks around. So if you are doing everything on 7 and 8 with just the built-in mics, record everything on the 7 and 8, and then you can swap them back to 1 and 2, record again on the 7/8, swap them to 3 and 4. Maybe a little time consuming, but you can do layered multi-track recording sessions without any external mics by using the swap controls. There's also one level of undo and redo, and you can name projects. You can set your resolution rate, all different stuff like that. You got your utility menu here. It's pretty easy to navigate once you get used to it. The jog wheel here really helps navigating through the different layers of menus. So that was the R16 as a portable multi-track recorder. But like I said, it's also an interface, an audio interface for your computer, a USB interface, and a USB control surface for your DAW. So in the next video, we're going to check out the R16 in those two roles. Until then, you are watching GearWire.com. I'm Owen, and we are checking out the Zoom R16.